All right. Welcome, welcome to my REI secret weapon. I'm Renee Buster, and we're going to dive right into chapter 2 of the Orange Revolution: How One Great Team Can Transform an Entire Organization by Adrian Gostik and Chester Elton, the New York Times bestselling authors of The Carrot Principle. And chapter 2 is The Common Cause. It was December 31, 1776, just 5 days after American General George Washington's military coup at Trenton, New Jersey. The British Redcoats were stunned. After a series of American losses, it seemed the tide of the war was about to turn. And yet the men of Washington's triumphant army were heading home. It was ludicrous, really. Washington's success in leading 2,400 troops across the icy Delta River in the middle of the night amid pouring rain to launch a surprise attack on the sleeping Hessians at Trenton had provided a significant victory for the struggling revolutionary forces. The battle was so important, in fact, that it would later be considered the turning point of the Revolutionary War. But for Washington's men, hunkered down in freezing temperatures, none of that was very clear. Instead, they saw that already a full 90% of the original revolutionary troops were gone. Many had been killed in battle, but large numbers were deserting every day, feeling the cause for independence was lost. The men who remained were not deserters. They had loyally followed their leader across the river. They had fought valiantly on Breed's Hill, at White Plains, Kip's Bay, and other sites. They had done everything they had been asked to do up until now. But due to an odd statute in the conscription laws, every man's enlistment was up the next day on January 1, 1777. And none of them intended to stay a single minute past that deadline. The way they all saw it, by the grace of God, they had been given an easy and honorable way to exit what many now believed was a losing cause, and they were taking it. This meant that, for all intents and purposes, just when the tide was turning in the Americans' favor, the war was ending. The revolution had failed. With this prospect looming before him, Washington gathered his men together on a ridge along the south side of the Assunpink Creek. Assunpink, Assunpink Creek. I don't know how to say that word. Assunpink Creek, with the Delaware River to the left and a brown wood to their right. Looking down from his high white steed at the laborers, farmers, and tradesmen who made up his army, the general made them an offer he believed they could not resist: a $10 bonus to each man who would stay a few more months. Everyone on the hill that day understood this was a handsome sum, and Washington must have felt confident in his offer. He nodded to the drummer boys, who began a rousing roll, then asked all who would take the bonus to step forward. My apologies, I lost my page. Here we go. Ooh, not a single man moved. Time passed. The drum roll faltered and stopped. Downcast and perhaps a little angry, Washington wheeled his horse around and rode off. The wind howled over the frozen ground as the men remained in formation on the cold hill and waited. Among them was Nathaniel Greene, who described what followed in a letter to Nicholas Cook. According to Greene, in time, General Washington returned to his men. This time, his overconfidence was gone, and he spoke with great familiarity and affection, looking many of his men in the eye. My brave fellows, you have done all I asked you to do and more than could be reasonably expected. But your country is at stake, your wives, your houses, and all that you hold dear. You have worn yourselves out with fatigues and hardships, but we know not how to spare you. If you will consent to stay 1 month longer, you will render that service to the cause of liberty and to your country, which you can probably never do under any other circumstance. The general went on to say that he wished he could pass the burden of war to others, but there was no one to accept the charge. He urged the men to consider what they and only they could do, asking them to think beyond themselves, to focus on the greater good. He promised that if they would stay and fight with him, their glorious cause would change the world. Then he signaled for the drum roll to begin again. Seconds passed. Finally, one man stepped forward, then another, and another, until every single man on the field had committed. They were on their way to making that cause a reality. Washington learned a valuable lesson that day, one that few in business ever really put into practice. Nothing else, not even bonuses or other perks, motivates like the opportunity to define and unite behind a common purpose. You'd think this concept would come as a relief to all of us with revolutionary tendencies, since it doesn't cost much of anything to define what we stand for. But the concept somehow scares us. We simply don't know how to go about implementing a common direction, and so we don't even try. The result is a small-scale team anarchy, because in the absence of a defined, overarching reason for being, members come up with their own agendas. The resulting mishmash of competing personal goals places teammates at cross purposes, triggers rivalries and turf wars, and can even prompt co-worker sabotage. In the most extreme cases, people desert their teams, either by leaving physically or by checking out mentally and emotionally. Either way, the cumulative costs for businesses are staggering. The costs resulting from a lack of shared purpose are large enough to catch the attention of smart teams and the employees who depend on them for their livelihoods. Like the revolutionaries serving under Washington, breakthrough team members are coming to agreements on their cause and are uniting around their ability to make a difference. And they are doing it within a variety of larger corporate environments, structured and chaotic, supportive and obstructive. In some teams, the shared purpose arises from a conversation between a couple of members with a sincere need for clarity. The process they go through to hone their purpose is clear enough that it spreads to the rest of their group. And in some cases, it even spreads systematically. However, the cause for most teams is simply an adoption of the corporate reason for being. In these cases, the corporate mission is articulated by management and trickled down to workers. Both approaches can work, but there is a preferred third method that generates the highest level of employee engagement. Every person in the company has a small voice in deciding the overarching cause. And then every team defines what that cause means to their group. And then each person takes a turn envisioning how they can make a contribution to the team and company causes. Giving employees a voice in the cause gets everyone invested toward the same end, fueling pride and creating momentum that builds as team members reach milestones along the way. Medical City Dallas Hospital is a marvelous illustration of the power of an entire organization working together to achieve such a common cause. They say that everything's bigger in Texas, and this hospital is no exception. There's a reason, after all, they call it a city. With 2,500 employees, 660 beds, 24,000 admissions a year, and 65,000 emergency room visits annually. It's a large place. So big, in fact, that a decade ago, administration and staff alike say they lost their patient-focused direction. 10 years ago, we had the attitude, I replaced your knee, you should be happy, said Virginia Rose, Vice President of Strategic Development. And that mindset manifested itself in an often aloof demeanor. Many staff members wouldn't even provide directions to our guests. In most cases, all you would get was a go left, go right, go left again. Employees certainly wouldn't take someone where they needed to go. They wouldn't talk to patients in elevators. It was silence as you went up or down. Staff answered the phones 6th South without any passion in their voice for providing service. That lack of personal attention had taken its toll. By year 2000, Medical City was limping along with a 36% bed vacancy rate, a number matched by 36% annual employee turnover. Patient satisfaction on a national 4.0 scale was an average 3.4. While their quality of medicine was undeniably cutting edge, their quality of compassion and respect was not. It began to look like the crack physicians and staff who could perform intricate heart, kidney, and stem cell transplants, and even pull off some of the world's most complicated cranial facial operations, might not be able to heal themselves. But leadership had a vision. Create a medical city experience that would make patients and their loved ones devotees of the hospital. Said Rose, when you walk into a Starbucks, you know what you're going to get. You align yourself with a certain experience. So for us, the question became, why would people align themselves with Medical City? The answer wasn't that easy. You've got to remember it's healthcare. It's not real sexy, added Rose. You come here because you have to come. But while you're here, how can we deliver such exquisite care and kindness that people would become raving fans? So if they or their families ever needed health care, they come to Medical City. Faced with this dilemma, CEO Britt Barrett understood the value of getting not only employees' buy-in, but their input about how the hospital could go about executing on the promise. He tapped Rose to create a multidisciplined consortium of clinicians, administrators, and staff, later dubbed the Patient Promise Posse, who voluntarily worked together to come up with a plan to create a single-minded focus on patients and their families. But instead of barking out orders, the team decided their first order of business was to hold up a mirror, figuratively, to every employee and ask them to take a good, long look at themselves and how they served customers. Remarking on where the hospital staff was versus where it had to go, Rose said, technically we were excellent, but warm and fuzzy, we were not. That was when we said, it's okay to care. It's okay to cry. It's okay to say you're sorry. You don't have to be a robot. Our promise would involve the family and decisions, show them that we cared, and that meant we had to change our attitude and how we were treating people. Everyone on the posse knew it would be a painful process. Certainly not as easy as putting an article about the new focus in the newsletter. But they also understood that by doing this right, they would be following a powerful method for engaging people and changing behavior. It was the only way to get the organization's buy-in to the process. So they bit the bullet and took on first the most intimidating group of all, upper management. We put our leadership through the admitting process. They had to wear gowns. They had to be wheeled around the hospital. We wanted them to see what it was like in a gown with people staring down at you to see what a patient sees. How do employees treat you? What does the signage say? It was eye-opening for them, said Rose. The policy didn't stop there. They went to the switchboard operators and asked if they could tape calls and then played them back. The operators laughed when they first heard themselves, she added, but then they said, my gosh, I really am speaking fast. We explained how you might think hurrying is making you more efficient, but it's actually making your customers ask more questions. By far, the most impactful thing they did was to create a series of videos featuring input from secret shoppers and patient comments. To put it mildly, the movies weren't pretty, but they kept the customer care cause front and center. In one video, one of our physicians saw a confused gentleman in the hallway. Our secret shopper was nearby. The physician said, I hope you brought some breadcrumbs, and walked away. He didn't ask if he could help, said Rose. Yet these criticisms were difficult for some to swallow at first. We had some pushback at the start from some areas, especially among the doctors, Rose said. But as the changes began around them, they were very honest with them. We said, we know you don't like seeing this about yourselves, but we need you to support the process. We need your input. And Rose and her team weren't kidding about valuing everyone's input. After grabbing employee attention with the videos, the posse communicated a challenge. We asked each group in the hospital to develop 3 goals to get us to a higher level of patient satisfaction, she said. The response was amazing. Even the physicians came around quickly. Key physician leaders advocated to allow families into care areas like the emergency room and presented their idea to other physicians who, despite some reservations, realized that this was a way of providing higher quality care that would lead to better outcomes in patient and family satisfaction. And it worked. We find that if family members are allowed into the emergency room while we are providing life-saving care, they are much more pleased than if we put them in the waiting room, no matter the outcome, said Rose. In another instance, one of the doctors, a renowned pediatric cardiovascular surgeon who performs hundreds of intricate operations a year, assumed a tremendous personal responsibility to influence patient loyalty and helped design a process for better patient and family communication. Hospital staff members also introduced out-of-the-box ideas such as auto detailing, banking, concierge services, and valet parking. Not to be outdone, the cafeteria reinvented itself as City Gourmet. No more reheating food in a microwave, as is typical in many hospitals. At Medical City, patients now order food as if they are staying in a hotel. As long as it's in their diet, patients can order anything from a gourmand steak to devilish chocolate thunder cake. Interactions in the halls began to change. We'll now take our patients where they need to go, even if it's walking them to another building, said Rose. If an employee sees a visitor in the elevator, our people will talk about their care, the weather, or something to put them at ease. If someone looks lost, we'll ask if we can help. Even the maintenance department got into the spirit, down to the point of posting cheerful signs explaining the reason for a disruption in elevator service or why a bathroom was being repaired. We knew customers would ask about the problem, so we told them how our construction was reinforcing our brand, that we are anticipating their needs, answering their questions before they had to ask is part of our patient promise, said Rose. Encouraging such self-examination also broke down the rigid hierarchy of power and made it clear that the hospital's new focus on patient care had to evolve at all levels. CEO Barrett even included his own personal telephone number in the new patient and family guide and encouraged patients to call with concerns. He wasn't bombarded. It didn't take over his life. But when people did dial it, they were stunned to find it actually rang to his phone, said Rose. As employees saw their leaders and colleagues making real personal changes in their approach to patient care, new kinds of relationships began to develop within Medical City. Something about seeing real change happen around them helped employees to trust each other and impacted even the most entrenched teams. The posse realized it was time to shift gears again. With an orange revolution in full motion at Medical City, the team again held up the mirror, but this time to recognize employee achievements. We celebrate every chance we get, said Rose, explaining that when the hospital recently achieved a whopping 3.7 customer satisfaction rating, they celebrated with a patient pizza promise, delivering more than 500 pies to all the shifts. Looking at Medical City today, it's hard to believe that it once was off course. Employee turnover has fallen from 36% to 6%. And it is now one of the top rated hospitals in parent company HCA's system of 160 hospitals, often ranking in first place. The most remarkable part of the entire transformation, said Rose, is that most of the changes originated and continue to originate from individual employees and teams. As leadership, we communicate the need. But we depend on employees to come up with the ideas and implement the behaviors necessary to reach our common cause, our patient promise, said Rose. Medical City's posse members aren't alone in their commitment to communicating the cause. Articulating a shared vision clearly, consistently, and emphatically is crucial to any successful change initiative. Still, some people believe that a common vision must be of major social significance before people will really rally behind it, eradicating poverty, for instance. But the reality is far simpler. People want clear meaning in their jobs. Our global research with Towers Watson in 2008 discovered the third most important predictor of employee engagement was having pride in your organization, especially in the manifestation of its symbol, and the number one driver of that pride was alignment. In other words, as an employee, you stand a much greater chance of being engaged if you believe your organization is aligned to what it stands for, whether that be customer service, cutting edge innovation, or out of this world patient care. This usually involves taking the cause beyond numbers. Medical City, for example, could have communicated a quantifiable goal of increasing customer satisfaction to 3.7 out of 4, but that would not have resonated with employees the way the challenge did to make raving fans out of their patients. In the National Basketball Association's marketing team, which you'll read about in Chapter 4, their cause was to reaffirm the NBA's status as the world's preeminent sports league. The result was all-time records in attendance. For the Madison Square Garden sports team, their new cause is to create what they call forever memories for every one of their guests. In a division of food distributor Nash Finch, which supports military families, their cause is to treat their customers like heroes. As a result, they've developed creative ways to ensure military families living on bases around the world can still find the comforts of home because that's how you treat heroes. Causes are the driving forces of the teams we studied, and yet in the process of articulating a cause and gaining full buy-in, these groups have encountered their share of landmines. The first is the tendency for complexity. While a cause is a single purpose that defines what we are all about, too many of us have worked in teams with so many priorities that it's hard to keep them straight in our heads, let alone reach an agreement on which overriding idea will guide everything that we do. Even if a team achieves agreement on a single cause, other hurdles emerge. For instance, employee resistance, fear of the unknown, comfort with the status quo, or even personal agendas can cause people to determinedly cling to what's known, despite indicators that point to bumpy roads ahead. Cynicism can also run rampant when teams are seeking buy-in. Many of us have worked at places where the commitment to a professed cause was hardly aligned with actions. And because of that, we learned to keep our heads down and wait out new change initiatives. It is essential that employees feel leaders are authentic about their commitment to the cause before they buy in. But as challenging as the work of articulating, agreeing on, and getting buy-in to a cause may seem, the alternative is unacceptable for teams seeking to break out. Without a clear, larger purpose setting the standard for how the team should be operating and what priorities should exist, teams can become blown off course easily, lose focus, or even become dominated by strong personalities, alienating everyone from a sense of ownership. Our team learned this lesson the hard way a few years ago. Here's what happened. Early in the development of our business books, we experienced a surge of interest in our training offerings. Our speaking and workshop business tripled in just 1 year. With such growth came challenges. We debated how to structure ourselves, where to focus people and budget, and how we could best continue to grow and spread the message. To help organize ourselves as a real business division and to allow us to focus the majority of our time serving clients and continuing to publish, we brought in a senior leader to head up the business side of the enterprise. We assumed that meant standardizing billing, finding us more resources, and reminding us of our P&L once a month. The executive had other ideas. Within weeks of coming in with little idea about our business or the training world in general, and having spoken to no one on the team, he saw the indecisiveness inherent in the growing operation and became what Bob Frisch, managing partner of the Strategic Offsites Group in Boston, calls a dictator by default. He began making big decisions by himself, announcing that he would bring in new managers over our loyal people, remove team members who had worked for us for years, and integrate our team into another unrelated area of our parent company. One morning at a breakfast meeting, he informed us of his plan and nixed any further discussion. One of us remembers wondering what prison sentence we would have to serve if we stuck the sharp end of a fork in the man's eyes. Much too late, we realized our core mistake. We had brought this partner into our pursuit without clearly articulating our shared cause, perhaps because we had not been fully aware of it ourselves at the time. It was only when we were faced with such a stark contrast that we finally understood that building the business was not our cause, but just a way to accomplish our raison. It's a French word. D-E-T-R-E. Our raison d'etre. Our cause was to become a manager's best friend, providing the tools managers needed to build stronger teams. And we knew that we didn't want to do it alone. We wanted to do it with our team. We realized we valued being an innovative entrepreneurial enterprise within a larger organization. Up until this leader joined us, roles had been changing and evolving as needed, not under a hierarchical commander and control structure. Hierarchical command and control structure. But under an orange team model where we all felt equal responsibility for the group's success or failure. We began to understand the incredible value of what we had. Suddenly, we knew that working with one another for the good of the cause was, in fact, central to our cause. What followed was a very difficult year spent trying to reach a level of cooperation with this executive. Eventually, we parted ways with him and achieved autonomy again. this time with an enhanced understanding of and appreciation for our shared cause. At Zappos.com, CEO Tony Hsieh anticipated this type of identity crisis before it happened. The cause to wow. Indeed, at the world's most remarkable online shoe retailer, we found one of the world's most unique company mission statements: to live and deliver wow. Zappos' succinct and wacky cause is largely due to the work of Hsieh. Like other revolutionary team leaders, he is convinced that it's the clarity of the Zappos mission that drives its unique culture and stacks the competitive deck in their favor. Now, if you've shopped Zappos.com, you know they have a great product strategy, allowing you to shop for shoes and other stuff with free shipping both ways. So in effect, you can try on a pair of hush puppies and never leave home. But as good as those ideas are, they could be replicated. They, the competition, can copy the look and feel of our website and even eventually the brands we have signed up. What they can't copy is our culture. That is our competitive advantage, the state told us. The balance sheet seems to indicate that this CEO knows what he's talking about. Despite being only 10 years old, this online retailer reports annual sales in excess of $1.1 billion. We've never seen an environment like this. As you tour the Las Vegas complex wearing your mandatory crown and stopping to have your picture taken on a throne, you quickly note the Zappos employees want to wow in every interaction with each other and their customers. Where to begin to explain? There's the fashion department that shows visitors how important they are by taking their pictures and pretending they are paparazzi. Or how about the finance team? Yes, those fun and crazy accountants who are cleaning up from their soapbox car race. They believe part of wowing each other is having fun as a group. There's a counseling area where employees meet with Coach Dr. David Vick to set personal wow goals, everything from losing weight to getting out of debt to getting promoted. Even the parking lot had been the site of an event the day before, an attempt by HR to wow all the employees by letting them cuddle a rabbit. We could go on and on. If you think that's weird, you're right. Being a little weird is actually one of the 10 ways employees live their mission. These 10 core values include ideas such as being adventurous, creative, and open-minded, having a family spirit, and even being humble. When we speak with Mara Sullivan, Customer Loyalty Manager, she can't wait to list the values for us, which she does by heart with no advance warning. Wow, 10, just like Moses, we say, impressed. They're written on a stone tablet somewhere around here, chimes in Rob Siefker, Senior Manager of Customer Loyalty. Employees spent a year helping to determine the 10, all culled from a list of 37 concepts provided by Hsieh. Create fun and a little weirdness has definitely become a favorite, says Krista Foley, the company's recruiting manager. For us, it's about being creative and being out of the box and taking risks. It kind of incorporates a whole bunch of core values into one. And for us, weird is a very positive thing, where normal might be a negative. While 10 rules might seem overwhelming for employees to get their heads around, as Zappos, there is great clarity about them. Because the company takes the time to communicate these values over and over, from the temporary tattoo parlor in the front hall, allowing you to decorate your body with your favorite value, to cafeteria team sing-offs that reinforce the 10 in amusing song parodies. It's also weirdly wonderful that it's a little hard to take in. Sullivan reminds us that this devotion to the cause of wow, with the 10 values to help everyone get there, builds a foundational level of trust at Zappos that gives employees the room to translate wow into their daily actions. People ask, what's your secret to giving wow service? It's really about putting trust and empowerment in our reps to make decisions right on the spot, she said. Whether it's shipping out a free pair of shoes, giving a coupon, setting up a UPS pickup, they don't need to ask a supervisor. They are more than welcome to go ahead and do it and not feel restricted with all kinds of policies. Rebecca Ratner, Director of HR, couldn't agree more. When I came on board 2 years ago, even at the more senior level, it was a huge chance to walk in and make decisions I thought were right for the department or for the company and not have 17 levels of approvals to go through. Here, it's important to be yourself, live the values, do right by the company, and do right by what you believe in. In the background, we hear a burst of music by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and an impromptu parade begins. More weirdness, more fun, more wow. Hsay admits that keeping Zappos focused on this cause through the against the grain culture isn't easy. They have to work on it constantly, but there's a method to the madness. The intent of all this wow is to do something that's above and beyond what's expected, something that has an emotional impact on the receiver. It seems to be working just as it is in breakthrough teams all around the world. Over the next few chapters, we'll introduce you to some amazing groups that are passionate about their causes. Their purposes may seem as different as night and day, and yet they do share some similarities. Breakthrough teams establish transformational common causes in several ways. Number one, they involve employees at all levels in establishing not only the cause, but the values to get there. Number two, they align the team cause with the larger goals of the organization. Number three, they create a unique, concise cause statement that helps make the team stand out in its industry. And number four, they communicate the shared purpose clearly and frequently, holding it up like a rallying flag. Number five, they align goals, deadlines, and celebrations to the cause. As you'll find, it's remarkable how powerful a single common rallying point can be in establishing breakthrough results. In fact, the path to turning your team orange starts with a clear cause. That was chapter 2, the Orange Revolution, how one great team can transform an entire organization. I'm Renee Buster with my REI Secret Weapon. Like, share, comment, let me know what you think of my backgrounds, let me know what you think of my reading, my content, and of course, share, invite people to subscribe, and let's all win. Peace. Good night.